100% naman ang sobrang bayad. We can go on and on with our list, Mr. President. Kaya lang, it may be hazardous to our health. Baka ma-high blood lang tayong lahat. Philhealth boldly claims that these health institutions actually receive these are normally high overpayments. But I couldn't help but wonder, with nothing but words from Philhealth officials, how can we take those words when there is no showing that these hospitals actually receive the overpayments? Overpayments are monies that invite fraud and corruption. No one keeps track where it goes, which health programs it funds, which health members it benefits. We already heard of the massive fraud perpetrated by the modus operandi of WellMed Dialysis and Laboratory Center Corporation. Ang mga lumantad na whistleblowers ay nagpahayag na nagsusumite ang WellMed ng peking benefit claims at ang nakakagalit pa sa lahat, ang paniningil ng WellMed sa mga PhilHealth ng gastos para sa dialysis ng mga pasyenteng nangamatay na. In response, PhilHealth officers claimed that payment to WellMed was cut as early as January 2019 following reports of anomalies. Pero binobola lang pala tayo, Mr. President. Business as usual pa rin ang WellMed sa pagkubra ng reimbursements. Sa katunayan, base sa nakuha naming datos sa PhilHealth dashboard ng Central Office, mula Enero hanggang Hunyo 2019, ang kabuuang reimbursements ng WellMed ay pumalo pa rin sa 4.24 million pesos. Noong nakarambuan lamang, kumita pa rin ang WellMed ng 1,224,600 pesos mula sa PhilHealth. Ang saya-saya nila, Mr. President. Not only did WellMed continue to receive payments, it was also paid in record speed with turnaround time as short as 2 days at the time when the fraud was already made public. Kanino ba nagmamano itong may-ari ng WellMed at tila napakalakas? Marahil kung makakabangon lamang ang mga dialysis patients na namatay at nailibing na, at kung hindi pa nabuko ay patuloy pa rin pinagkakakitaan ng WellMed, ewan ko na lang kung sino-sino ang una nilang dadalawin para pagsasasakalin. Hindi lamang ghost patients mayroon ng PhilHealth, mayroon din silang overstaying patients o mga pasyenteng pinapauwi na ng doktor kung bakit ayaw pang pauwiin ng ospital para lamang mapagkakitaan pa ang PhilHealth. Ang masama, tila kinukonsinti pa ng ahensya ang ilang mga ospital sa mga kalokohan nito. A case in point is the Perpetual Soccer Hospital based in Cebu, which was found guilty of extending confinement to siphon PhilHealth funds. In 2011, the hospital filed benefit claims extending the period of confinement of 2 patients with the intent to defraud PhilHealth. For one, instead of recording the hospital doctors may go home order on 22 July 2011 for patient, let's call her Maria. Perpetual Soccer Hospital filed for her confinement a day longer. Meanwhile, another patient, let's refer to him as Jose, whose confinement covered inclusive dates of December 25, 2010 to February 3, 2011 as reported to be confined until February 7 or a 4-day confinement extension. Due to this, the PhilHealth Arbitration Office adjudged Perpetual Soccer Hospital guilty of extending period of confinement and meted the penalty of 3-month suspension and a fine of 10,000 pesos. As part of due process, the hospital filed a motion for reconsideration with the PhilHealth Board of Directors, which, in the exercise of its quasi-judicial powers, denied the motion and upheld the arbitrator's decision. Consequently, a petition for review was filed by the hospital with the Court of Appeals. Finding no merit, the Court of Appeals Division dismissed the petition, and the motion for reconsideration filed by the hospital was likewise denied. An entry of judgment was made by the Court of Appeals on April 19, 2018, which means that the petition has become final and executory and recorded in the Court of Appeals Book of Entry of Judgments. Despite this, the PhilHealth Board, acting on a letter request for reconsideration filed by Perpetual Succor, in a brazen display of grave abuse of discretion, set aside the final executory judgment of the Court of Appeals and instead imposed the penalty of 100,000 pesos fine in lieu of the penalty of 3-month suspension and a fine of 10,000 pesos. Imagine this, para sa isang ospital tulad ng Perpetual Succor na kumukolekta sa Philhealth ng hindi bababa sa 30 milyong monthly average na koleksyon, ano na lamang ang halaga ng 100,000 pesos na multa? Ako na rin ang sasagot, Mr. President, barya. Dahil sa 3 buwan na dapat ay suspendido ang Perpetual Succor Hospital, ay halos 100 milyon ang malamang na nakolekta nila mula sa Philhealth. Perpetually lucky. One may ask, can the board legally do it? What is its legal basis and authority in overturning a final executory judgment rendered by no less than the Court of Appeals? Why would the Philhealth Board even do that, Mr. President? Maybe the better question is, magkano? I know that Philhealth has so much on its plate. The issues of overpayments and fraud are just a prelude to its telltale chronicle of shenanigans and corruption. Speaking of a tale of woe, Philhealth faces another fiasco as plunder raps were filed against Health Secretary Francisco Duque III and his brother and attorney Gonzalo Duque. The case involves lease contracts that Philhealth entered into with the Educational and Medical Development Corporation, where the Duque brothers own shares. Frankly, when I tripped on this anomaly in June of this year and called it a clear case of conflict of interest, I never thought I would hit a nerve so bad that Gonzalo Duque, a lawyer, would call me names after dismissing the issue of conflict of interest. It was a banter of poor taste born out of anxiety and how anxious he must be. Documents show that Philhealth's Region 1 office had rented a building owned by the EMDC on Francisco Duque Jr. Street, Tapuac District in Dagupan City, from June 2012 to December 2018. The lease payments of the Duque-owned building with a total floor area of 1,853 square meters steadily increased through the years, from monthly lease of 368,500 pesos in 2012 to 432,305 in 2016. The contract for a year, or for the year 2018, was amended to cover 2,015.4 square meters, and the monthly rental was set at 529,261 pesos and 4 centavos. Copies of EMDC's General Information Sheet in our possession show that Secretary Duque was among the 8 stockholders of the company, all of whom are from the Duque clan. His siblings, Attorney Gonzalo Duque and Dr. Luz T. Duque Hammersheim, held the position of EMDC president, exhibited in various lease contracts with Philhealth. Clearly, at the time Philhealth was paying sums of lease payments to the Duque-owned building, Dr. Francisco Duque directly held concurrent positions in their family corporation and high-ranked government posts, which created an undeniable conflict of interest. Noong 2012 lamang, or habang siya ay nakaupong Executive Vice President ng EMDC, siya rin ang Chairman ng Civil Service Commission, nakasabay na naglingkod bilang ex-officio member ng Philhealth Board of Directors. Bukod pa rito, habang siya ay consultant ng Department of Health mula May 2015 hanggang June 2016, tumayo rin siya bilang presidente ng EMDC. A Supreme Court ruling, Funa versus Duque, Executive Secretary, Office of the President, under GR number 191672 on November 25, 2014, declaring as unconstitutional Civil Service Commission Chairman Duque's designation as ex-officio member of the Philhealth Board, notwithstanding the effects of his acts prior to the declaration of the unconstitutionality of the executive order, and I quote, cannot be erased, ignored, or disregarded, unquote, applying the doctrine of operative fact. Ang pinakalantarang paglabag sa mga umiiral na batas ay ang pagpapatuloy ng kontrata sa pagitan ng EMDC at Philhealth sa kabila ng pag-upo ni Dr. Duque bilang kalihim ng Department of Health at kasabay nito bilang chairperson ng Philhealth simula noong Oktubre 2017. Ang EMDC ay nagpahayag noong Hunyo 2019 na wala na itong intensyong palawigin ang kontrata ng pag-upa ng Philhealth na magtatapos sa Disyembre 2019. Pero ginawa lamang ito pagkatapos na mabulgar ang issue ng conflict of interest na nakapaloob sa kontratang ito. Ang gusto ba nilang sabihin, utang na loob pa ba natin sa pamilya nila na hanggang Disyembre 2019 na lamang magbabayad ang PhilHealth sa EMDC? Kaya naman hanggang sa mga sandaling ito, Mr. President, nagaganap pa rin ang conflict of interest. Pakisagot nga, attorney. Mr. President, I wish to reiterate under Section 3I of RA 6713 or the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees, and I quote, conflict of interest arises when a public official or employee is a member of a board, an officer, or a substantial stockholder of a private corporation or owner, or has substantial interest in a business, and the interests of such corporation or business, or his rights or duties therein, may be opposed to or affected by the faithful performance of official duty. Under Section 7, Prohibited Acts and Transactions of the same Republic Act, Paragraph A, Financial and Material Interest. Public officials and employees shall not, directly or indirectly, have any financial or material interest in any transaction requiring the approval of their office. In the case of the Duque-owned family EMDC, if the case of the Duque family-owned EMDC is not a case of conflict of interest, I do not know what else to call it, Mr. President. Going back to Attorney Gonzalo Duque's anxiety, I will quote his unwise and reckless words, directly referring to this representation. He said, without mincing words, hindi mo magigising yung may purpose o nagtatanga-tangahan. Walang ospital para sa tanga. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I could not agree more with Gonzalo Duque. Totoo namang walang ospital na makakagamot sa isang katulad ni Gonzalo. Mr. President, the discovery of the ownership of the building is in Dagupan being leased by PhilHealth has opened up yet another Duque-owned can of worms. It is called Doctors Pharmaceuticals Incorporated. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this time I invite your attention to another lucky business entity, that is the Doctors Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, a drug manufacturing company located at number 8 Veteran Center, West Bicutan, Taguig City, owned by who else but the family of the Secretary of Health himself, Francisco T. Duque III. Based on our data sourced from the Philippine Government Electronic Procurement System, or PhilJEPS, Doctors Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, with active platinum membership, is an accredited corporation that bids for government contracts primarily with the Department of Health since year 2005. Ask a moron if there is something wrong with this situation, and surely that moron will give you the correct answer, Mr. President. That said, my office was able to acquire the general information sheet of the company covering a 10-year period from 2008 to 2018. Under the list of directors, officers, and stockholders of Doctors Pharmaceuticals Incorporated are very familiar surnames. Cesar T. Duque, Chairman with 60% shares. Joyce Ma Duque, Treasurer with 20%. Dr. Luz Duque Hammersham, President with 10%. A certain Leon Guerrero, Corporate Secretary with 8%. Please let us know if this is you, Senator Lapid. And Maria Teresa S.P. Castro, Chief Accountant with 2%. Evidently, Mr. President, only 10% of the total shares belong to the non-Duque personalities from the list provided. First, we ask, Mr. President, is it just a mere coincidence that Doctors Pharmaceuticals Incorporated became an accredited government contractor and supplier on the same year that Secretary Duque was confirmed by the Commission on Appointments as Secretary of Health during the Arroyo administration in 2005. Further, Mr. President, we have noted a number of suspension and product recall orders released by the FDA, or the Food and Drugs Administration, to Doctors Pharmaceuticals Incorporated. This was during the incumbency of former Health Secretary Janet Garin, who was also Acting Director General of the Food and Drug Administration in concurrent capacity. In fact, I asked her if she knew at the time that she was suspending a Duque family-owned corporation. She did not. Based on a routine inspection conducted between March 10 to 12, 2015, the FDA reported non-conformance to GMP, or Good Manufacturing Practice of Doctors Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, hence ordering the company to immediately cease and desist from further manufacturing, distributing, and offering for sale all concerned products for not complying with good manufacturing practice. She also discovered that Doctors Pharmaceuticals was also manufacturing for other companies. Hence, the June 23, 2015 cease and desist order and the recall of all drug products from March 14 up to the present, or on June 23, 2015. However, the FDA noted in January 2016, through an investigation prompted by an anonymous complainant, that Doctors Pharmaceuticals continued its production line despite the cease and desist order. The same inspection report recommended thereafter that the company stop production and distribution of pharmaceutical products until sufficient data was presented to prove that there was no contamination, and that the same were safe for consumption, as in the case of amoxicillin, an antibiotic that the Doctors Pharmaceuticals was manufacturing with the same machines which they used to manufacture supplements such as Garcinia, a supplement used for weight loss. Hence, if consumers took the supplement, they might also be unknowingly taking antibiotics. The danger lies in that persons allergic to amoxicillin could be put in danger. Worse, if the antibiotic was consumed in suboptimal amounts, it could contribute to serious problem of antibiotic resistance. Antibiotic resistance has been identified by the World Health Organization as one of the most serious and dangerous issues the world is facing. Halimbawa, isang kasama natin dito sa Senado, si Senator Bato de la Rosa, ay gusto magpapayat, kaya umiinom siya ng juice na may Garcinia supplement. Pero lingid sa kaalaman niya, iisang makina lang ang ginagamit ng kumpanyang nagsusupply sa DOH ng pagtimpla ng Garcinia food supplement at amoxicillin na isang antibiotic. E nagkataong allergic pala sa antibiotic si Senator Bato. Napakadelikado po nito. Baka sa halip na pumayat si Senator Bato, baka hindi na siya tubuan ng buhok. Pasensya ka na, Ronald. Wala na yung mista ko, nasa DICT na, ikaw lang ang kaya ko dito. Levity aside, Mr. President, yan po ang naging violation ng Doctors Pharmaceuticals, kaya sinuspinde noong Marso 2015. Despite the recorded violations of the company as food supplement manufacturer, it still managed to apply and acquire automatic renewal of its license to operate in 2016. This is a case of setting aside health for wealth, Mr. President. When the pharmaceutical company that is awarded contract to supply medicines to the Department of Health does not observe good manufacturing practice in the manufacture of its medicines, does this not pose a threat to the health and safety of our public? Bear with me, Mr. President, I could not help my investigative instincts. Was Doctors Pharmaceuticals actually setting aside health for wealth? In our efforts to dig deeper and convince ourselves with evidence involving this corporation, we referred to the PhilHealth's database to see and examine the contracts granted to Doctors Pharmaceuticals, Strangely, Mr. President, we were able to extract only 5 copies or 5 notices of awards from December 2016 to July 2017 because PhilJEP's website went offline for an unusually long period of time. Anyway, examples of such award notices are as follows. Award notice abstract reference number 155775 and award notice abstract reference number 1557777 awarded to Doctors Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, contact person Cesar T. Duque, President, for procurement of clozapine with a contract amount of 395,040 pesos and 3,102,000 pesos respectively, with contract award date 24 July 2017, both under contract number GOP 2017-06-0193, with contract effectivity date 13 September 2017, and contract end date 13 November 2017. Another award notice abstract, reference number 1377959, has an award date 08 December 2016 and contract end date 31 December 2017. Take note that Secretary Duque was appointed DOH Secretary last October of 2017. As a former chairman of the Civil Service Commission, Secretary Duque, more than many of us, should know by heart the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials. Is it not incumbent upon Secretary Duque to exercise professionalism and ethical standards by stopping all dealings of his family's corporation with the very government agency that he heads? Mr. President, even the Supreme Court itself has made clear that the observance of professionalism in the context of Section 4A, paragraphs A and B of RA 6713 or Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees means upholding the integrity of public office by endeavoring to discourage wrong perception of their roles as dispensers or peddlers of undue patronage. Thus, a public official or employee should avoid any appearance of impropriety affecting the integrity of government services. Another standard set forth by the same law through Section 4, paragraph C provides that public officials must act with justness and sincerity. It further expounds that, and I quote, they, public officials, shall not dispense or extend undue favors on account of their office to their relatives, whether by consanguinity or affinity, except with respect to appointments of such relatives to positions considered strictly confidential or as members of their personal staff whose terms are coterminous with theirs, unquote. In a speech by then Civil Service Commission Chair Francisco Duque III during the Good Governance Forum on July of 2014, he said, and I quote, "In government, it is important to care enough so as to stop or stem unethical practice or practices before they become ingrained or systemic. The more we let things pass, the more ethical standards get lowered." Secretary Duque's words, not mine. Mr. President, let me make it clear and put on record, walang personalan. I raise these questions to ensure that public funds are not misused and abused, and that the health and safety of the public are not put at risk for personal or family interest. Mr. President, we are about to fully implement Republic Act number 11223, or the Universal Healthcare Act, which will give a full spectrum of health services to all Filipinos. With it comes a big chunk of our annual budget. The budget appropriated for this landmark law is pegged at 257 billion pesos for this year. In fact, the National Health Insurance Program, or NHIP, in which every Filipino shall be a member under the UHC, had appropriations of 52.2 billion and 60.6 billion in 2017 and 2018, respectively. And for this year, 67.35 billion has been allocated for the program. We cannot afford to lose 1 peso from policy failures, insurance frauds, and conflict of interest. Besides, Mr. President, these are the country's Philhealth and Department of Health that we are talking about, not Philwealth and Department of Wealth. Be that as it may, Mr. President, I refuse to believe that the agency is rotten to the core. In fact, I have heard of many honest and well-meaning Philhealth officers and employees who braved the odds and blew the whistle on these various anomalies in the corporation. But they all found themselves thrown under the bus and harassed with concocted, fabricated offenses. They may now find comfort under the new leadership. I urge them to report everything they know and present their evidence to their new Philhealth president. From all these accounts, we see that like a biological organism, machinations on the misuse of public power for private gain continue to evolve, thrive, and linger. Amid these shenanigans, it behooves public servants, let alone the Secretary of Health, to rid himself of conflict of interest and put the interests of the people above everybody else. Nothing else will suffice. Falling short of this will compromise his office, principles, and integrity. Someone once said, "Greed is a bottomless pit which exhausts the person in an endless effort to satisfy the need without ever reaching satisfaction." Sadly, Mr. President, greed in this country has reached new greater heights. It is now at the expense of the people's health, one that is considered a fundamental part of our basic human rights. Finally, I say with no reservation, corrupt public officials have no place on earth, but corrupt officials stealing health funds deserve an upgraded and super special suite in hell. Having said all that, I move that my privileged speech be referred to the Committee on Health and the Committee on Public Accountability of Public Officers and Investigations. Thank you, Mr. President.
The majority leader is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just was curious because I also saw the province of Bukidnon there and other hospitals in Mindanao. How do they do would the gentleman yield to just a few questions?
Of course, willingly to the distinguished majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the issue on the overpayments, clearly it's unethical, clearly it is illegal. But the question that I'd like to place is, how would they take advantage? Let's say there are corrupt Philhealth officials. Would the gentleman know on how they would take advantage of this overpayment? Would it be through a rebate scheme? Would the hospitals involved come up with a rebate scheme?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. The fact remains that there are overpayments, and this is not just overpayments, but overpayments in the amount of 2,500% incremental difference, Mr. President. That's unconscionable.
Do the whistleblowers that the good gentleman from Cavite discussed give a hint on how it's done? So that
Well, I think that would be a big challenge to the new Philhealth president, who incidentally is here in our midst, Mr. President. So, General Dick Morales. So, that's why in my privileged speech, Mr. President, I enjoined the members of Philhealth, because, you know, this information, most of this information came from them actually. They braved the odds, as I mentioned, to report all these shenanigans. And it is now their opportunity to report with their evidence to their new Philhealth president, who I have known to be a man of integrity, a no-nonsense military officer during his time in the service, Mr. President.
So, Mr. President, with the revenue-generating measures that we've approved in the last 2 years, especially beefing up the coffers of Philhealth, we congratulate the gentleman from Cavite for bringing this up, because we really need an efficient method of dispensation of these funds, or else all hell will break loose. Kawawa talagang taong bayan. Ang kawawa dito po yung mga nangangailangan ng tulong. So I congratulate the good gentleman from Cavite. We join him and we support him in this crusade to rid the agency, not only of Philhealth, but also the Department of Health, of these corrupt practices. With that, Mr. President, we move that the speech of the gentleman from Cavite, Senator Ping Lacson, be referred to the Committee on Accountability of Public Officers and Investigation and the Committee on Health. It's the joint.
The original motion of Senator Lacson is be referred to the Committee on Health and then secondarily to the Committee on Accountability of Public Officers.
Traditionally,
I
Mr.
suggest that-
President, traditionally, it's usually the Blue Ribbon Committee that heads the investigation. But if there's no objection from the chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee, I see no reason that the Health Committee be. May we recognize the Minority Leader?
The Minority Leader is recognized.
Mr. President, at the meeting today of the Committee on Rules, one of the issues that we discussed is the issue of the referral of speeches, of bills, of resolutions. And our agreement with the, if I recall correctly, is that the referral will be governed by the jurisdiction defined in the rules. And so that we avoid exercise of discretion, we avoid misunderstandings, and we can rely on the rules. So it is not a question of the permission or concurrence of anyone, but it's a question of whether or not they would fall under this or that rule. In this particular case, Mr. President, since it would appear that the principal thrust of the speech of the gentleman from Cavite is on the anomalies in Philhealth, our respectful submission, Mr. President, is that it should be referred to the Blue Ribbon Committee primarily, and secondarily to the Committee on Health. We so respectfully move, Mr. President.
The gentleman from Iloilo is absolutely correct, Mr. President, citing that all matters relating to, including investigation of malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance, is the direct concern of the Committee on, or the Blue Ribbon Committee, Mr. President.
All right, then we will treat the manifestation of Senator Lacson as a suggestion, and that we will act on the motion of the Majority Leader, which is that it be referred to the Blue Ribbon Committee and secondarily to the Committee on Health. And just to say again, for the record, from the chair, that we need indeed speedy action. And as much as Senator Lacson mentioned that the new president is here, if you will recall, during the time we were discussing the budget of the Department of Health, particularly the Philhealth, I brought to the attention of Philhealth then this particular neurologist in Corondal City, Dr. Mark Dennis Menggita, Region 12 Philhealth, who has been conducting the same anomalies that were reported. And we have not received any report from Philhealth from then up to now. So please include it in the referral to the Committee on Blue Ribbon and Committee on Health. So, any objection to the motion? Chair hears none. Motion is approved. So referred.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, another distinguished gentleman of ours, Senator Joel Villanueva, would like to deliver a privileged speech. May we recognize the gentleman from Bulacan.
Senator Joel Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, distinguished Majority Floor Leader. Arise on a matter of personal and collective privilege. The book of Proverbs 21, verse 15, it says, when justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous but terror to evildoers. Ginoong Pangulo, mga ginagalang kong mga kasamahan dito sa Senado. Naantala po ang inaasam na tagumpay ng manggagawang Pilipino laban sa ENDO. noong pong ika-26 ng Hulyo ay urong-sulong na ipinahayag ni Secretary Panelo ang pagvito ng Pangulo sa ating Security of Tenure Bill. Mr. President, let me spread into the records that we are not here to question the right and the prerogative of the President to veto the measure. Mr. President, however, I lament the rejection of the Security of Tenure Bill on account of the President's veto message. Ang 2 pahina pong mensahe ng Pangulo tungkol sa pagpapawalang bisa ng Security of Tenure Bill ang pinakamatagal ko na po yatang binasang liham. Ito po'y dahil sa labis kong kalungkutan at panghihinayang at sa kakahanap rin po ng partikular na probisyong nagtulak sa pagvito nito. I share the observation of our Senate President Pro Tempore, Senator Ralph Recto, that the veto message failed to specify the provisions that prompted the rejection of the Security of Tenure Bill. Sa halip po na ituro ang mga nireject na provision sa SOT Bill, ang nakita lamang po natin ay ang pagbibigay ng pangkalahatang dahilan kung bakit vinito ang panukalang batas na inaprubahan ng buong Kongreso. Una po, Ginoong Pangulo, nakasaad po dito na labis daw pong pinalawig ng Security of Tenure Bill ang katuturan at sakop ng labor-only contracting at security of tenure na katumbas ng pagbabawal sa kontraktualisasyon. Mali po ito, Ginoong Pangulo. Mas naging malinaw pa nga po kung ano ang mga pupwede po nating gampanan ng mga lehitimong job contractors sa panukalang batas na ipinasaho ng Kongreso noong 17th Congress. Ito po'y kumpara, Ginoong Pangulo, sa nangyayari po sa ngayon. Ito rin po, at nais ko pong bigyan diin, Ginoong Pangulo, ang definition ng labor-only contracting na sinertipikahan ng ating mahal na Pangulo noong 2018. Ikalawa, bagamat kinikilala po na dapat ipagbawal ang labor-only contracting, dapat pa ring payagan ang lehitimong pagkokontrata ng trabaho. Ito man ay directly o hindi directly related sa negosyo. Tumugon po tayo, Ginoong Pangulo, at nauunawaan po natin kung gaano kahalaga ang work flexibility sa ngayon. Kaya nga po, binigyan natin ng kapangyarihan ng panukalang batas na inaprubahan ng Kongreso ang mga Industry Tripartite Council upang sila po ang magsabi kung anong mga trabaho ang directly related at kung ano naman ang mga trabahong pwedeng i-contract out. This is in recognition, Mr. President, of the fact that might be directly related now may not be directly related in the future in the light of rapidly changing technologies. Naglagay pa nga po tayo, Ginoong Pangulo, sa SOT Bill natin ng klarong basehan para limitahan ang discretion ng mga labor inspectors at korupsyon. Bentaha po ito sa mga mamumuhunan at negosyo at ito rin po ang request nila. Pangatlo po at huli, sisirain daw po ng Security of Tenure Bill ang delicate balance sa pagitan ng labor at management. Kalaunan, magdudulot daw po ito ng negatibong konsekwensya sa kapakanan ng mga manggagawang Pilipino. Ginoong Pangulo, kailanman hindi po ito ang naging intensyon ng ating panukalang batas na iniprubahan ng buong Kongreso. Bakit kailangan po nating isakripisyo ang kapakanan ng ating mga manggagawa at pahintulutan ang patuloy na pang-aabuso sa kanila ng mga mapansamantalang negosyante? Ayaw lang po natin, Ginoong Pangulo, ng fly-by-night contractors. Ayaw lang po natin, Ginoong Pangulo, ng walang responsibilidad o accountability ang mga contractors. Mr. President, I lament the veto message on account of the legislative process. Let me also agree with the good majority floor leader when he reminded everyone that the Senate leadership was being pressured, claiming that we have not acted on the SOT bill after the House of Representatives has passed their version and the Palace has come out with a certification that it was a priority measure, alleging further that we in the Senate has been sitting on it. Nakaka-pressure naman po talaga dahil paulit-ulit itong binabanggit ng ating Pangulo sa mga events, sa Labor Day celebration, sa nakaraang SONA, at ang pinakamatindi po sa lahat, ito po mismo ang sinertipika ng ating Pangulo as urgent and priority. Like you, Mr. President, I'm totally bewildered on this new development. Does it mean now, Mr. President, that the certification from the Palace actually is meaningless? If that is the case, Mr. President, then we have been misled as we have dedicated so much time. In this case, Mr. President, not only time, resources, energy, etc. We work on this particular measure for more than 3 years, Mr. President, to actually deliver the priority measures. Ito pong Security of Tenure Bill. At hindi lang po ito, kasama na rin po ang COCO Levy Bill, only to be told that they are not necessary. Ganito rin po ang sentimiento kanina ng mga miyembro ng Committee on Rules. Kanina po sa pagpupulong, nandun po si Senator Drilon, Senator Lacson, Senator Win, Senator Pacquiao, Senator Angara, Senator Gordon. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, bigo na naman po si Carlos Miguel Francisco, ang mukha ng endo at kontraktualisasyon. Magpapatuloy po ang kwento niya na tuwing matatapos ang kanyang kontrata, jobless at wala siyang kasiguruhan kung kailan siya ulit makakakuha ng trabaho. Isa lang po siya sa halos 2 milyong manggagawang nangangarap na mawakasan na ang endo. At simula pa lamang ng pagbukas ng 17th Congress, inasahan na po natin, Ginoong Pangulo, na maraming haharang sa panukalang ito. Subalit, hindi po tayo natinag. Lalo na po at maraming manggagawa ang umaasa rito na tutuldok sa endo. Ngayon, pansamantalang naantala ito. Ang issue, Ginoong Pangulo, ng endo at pang-aabuso sa kontraktualisasyon ay parang butas na tubo. Tuloy-tuloy nasisirit ang tubig hanggat hindi ito tuluyang nakukumpuni ang leak o tagas nito. Kaya muli po nating isinumiti kanina, Ginoong Pangulo, ang Senate Bill number 806 para masawata ang pagsasamantala at hindi makataong pagtrato sa ating mga manggagawa. Patuloy po nating isusulong ang panukalang batas na ito hanggang hindi po nawawakasan ang pang-aabuso sa kontraktualisasyon at hindi ganap na tinatamasa ng mga manggagawang Pilipino ang tunay na seguridad sa trabaho. Tuloy po ang laban sa endo. Muli, maraming salamat, Ginoong Pangulo, at sa lahat po ng kasama natin na nagsulong ng panukalang batas na ito. May God bless us all.
The Minority Leader is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the recognition. Will the gentleman sponsor of the Security of Tenure Bill, the gentleman from Bulacan, yield the floor to a few clarificatory questions?
Most definitely, distinguished colleague, especially from our distinguished colleague from Iloilo, our Minority Floor Leader, Senator Frank Drilon.
The gentleman, Mr. President, presented a copy of the certification of Malacanang dated September 21, 2018, certifying to the necessity and immediate enactment of Senate Bill 1826, and the title of the bill is clearly specified. Mr. President, from what I recall, the certification was issued when the committee report contained Senate Bill 1826. This is a committee bill at this point, not only a bill of the good gentleman from Bulacan. Is that a correct recollection, sir?
The distinguished Minority Floor Leader is correct, Mr. President. This is a committee report, and this is not just the bill of this representation, but the consensus of the members of the Committee on Labor and Human Resources Development.
When the bill was passed, it basically followed the principles outlined in Senate Bill 1826, which was certified as urgent. Is that a correct statement, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President, that is correct.
And therefore, the Senate passed the bill as certified by Malacanang, at least in substance. Is that
Yes.
correct, sir?
Yes, Mr. President, exactly correct.
So, Mr. President, why was it vetoed?
Your question is as good as mine, and that's the same reason why I rise today, Mr. President. And in trying to pinpoint exactly what the veto message is all about, no less than the Senate President pro tempore, made mention that there was no particular provision being pointed out by Malacanang as to why this particular measure was vetoed, Mr. President.
Oh, do we have a copy of the veto message?
Yes, Mr. President, I have it here with me.
And does it specify the reasons for the President's disagreement with the version that was certified as urgent and an administration measure?
It's in general form, Mr. President, as mentioned a while ago. For example, the definition of labor-only contracting, which this representation already stated that it is the same definition that was certified by the President in September 21, 2018.
Now that you have mentioned again the certification, as the gentleman is aware, under Section 26, Article 6 of the Constitution, the certification would dispense with the 3-day rule, meaning that with the certification of the President, the constitutional requirement that the bill must be presented in printed form 3 days before third reading is dispensed with. Is that a correct statement, Mr. President?
Yes, we submit, Mr. President.
And the certification under the Constitution is based only on the following standard, that the necessity of immediate enactment is, quote, to meet a public calamity or emergency. Does the gentleman recall that statement in the Constitution, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President, we submit.
What is then the public calamity or emergency that was the basis of this certification?
I would submit to the wisdom of the minority floor leader. I don't see any basic calamity whatsoever, as it was certified, Mr. President. Yes, we agree, Mr. President.
No.
And other than that, we have heard several times the President himself talking about the importance of this particular measure, that he needed to pass this measure as part of his campaign promise. We heard last year's SONA that this is indeed an important measure that we should pass, Mr. President. So as a matter of courtesy and with the certification of the President, we comply, Mr. President, with the request of Malacanang.
In other words, if somebody will question the constitutionality of this certification, that's a matter for them to bring to the courts if indeed they find it unconstitutional. But having said that, Mr. President, that is the technical aspect of a certification, the constitutional aspect of the certification. The policy issue is when the President certifies a bill as found in the committee report, the President agrees with the contents of the committee report because this is certified then as an urgent administration measure. Is that a correct statement, Mr. President?
I cannot agree more with the statements made by our minority floor leader.
So if you cannot agree more, can you tell us why the President vetoed the bill?
It's the same question that I have been profoundly asking, Mr. President. In fact, we filed the same committee report this afternoon, Senate Bill number 806, and to elicit the reasons from the officials of Malacanang as to why they opted or they influenced the President to veto the same measure, Mr. President.
Is that the basis for the statement of the gentleman in his privileged speech that raising a rhetorical question, is the certification meaningless?
That's exactly the point I'm trying to raise, Mr. President, because if it is meaningless, then we were misled for 3 years. I would remember, and let me put on record, the very first hearing of this particular measure is concerned, no less than the minority floor leader attended the Committee on Labor hearing, Mr. President.
Well, I think it's a little too much to say that we were misled. We assume good faith. Hindi naman siguro intensyon na linlangin ang Senado dito po sa pangyayaring ito. Ngunit, sinabi po ng ating kagalang-galang na kapatid na galing sa Bulacan na mayroon po siyang isinampang bagong Senate Bill 806. Mr. President, how different is this from Senate Bill number 1826, which was vetoed?
This is the same committee report that was certified by the President as urgent and priority, Mr. President.
So, chances are when we pass this bill, Senate Bill number 806, it will again be vetoed.
Well, Mr. President, hope springs eternal, and perhaps we'll be able to convince some of the cabinet official who were against the particular measure. But let me point out, Mr. President, that the Department of Labor and Employment, the Department of Trade and Industry overwhelmingly supported the measure. Another thing perhaps, Mr. President, to console us and to give us more hope that this time around it will be given right attention, Mr. President, is that we have here with us our colleague Senator Bongo, who would probably be able to explain properly the measures that we are deliberating and tackling here in the Senate.
If Senate Bill 806 is again vetoed, would the gentleman agree with the statement, sobra na yan?
I will cross the bridge, Mr. President, once we arrive at it, Mr. President.
And if again the Senate Bill 806 is vetoed, would the gentleman from Bulacan lead the chamber in overriding the veto?
If the distinguished minority floor leader would support me, perhaps I will consider, Mr. President.
We are just in the minority, there are just 3 of us, but we can assure the gentleman that we will support him if indeed he finds it totally unjust and meaningless. If the bill is again vetoed. At according to Senator Gordon, kawawa naman, tinuturo si Senator Villanueva po.
Are you not going to suggest that he moves to override?
I'm sorry?
Are you not going to suggest to Senator Villanueva to move to override?
Yes, in this particular measure, if he is prepared, we are already ready. We're ready to support him. And if he does not get the support, maybe Senator Villanueva can move over to the minority.
Yeah, I see no reaction, so...
So he's not willing to lead, and he's not willing to move to the minority, Mr.
well, he's not willing to move.
I have to confess that the Senate President advised this representation to refile the measure, Mr. President. And that's one of the major reasons why we...
I agree with the Senate President. Let us give ourselves another chance to try to convince the President that this is the right measure.
Convince the President or convince a cabinet official?
It's just one cabinet official that...
Oh, Mr. President, the cabinet official is an elected official of the government. We are the elected representatives, and the President represents the mandate of the people, and it is the President who finally decides on this measure, not the cabinet official. Mr. President, going to another topic.
I'm sorry?
Is this the first time that this happened, Mr. President?
If I'm not mistaken, as mentioned by the Majority Floor Leader during the Committee on Rules hearing this afternoon, this is the second time. The first time was that of the COCO levy measure, Mr. President.
Is your question, Your Honor, is your question related only to the 17th Congress?
Two?
The 17th Congress only?
Yes, only to the 17th Congress. So, just on the 17th Congress, I would like to know, we would like to know for the record, if this is the first time where a certified measure, the contents of which we patterned after the certified measure, contents of the certified measure was vetoed. In other words, there appears to be no consistency. Is this the first time that this happened?
Mr. President,
Zero the leader.
with the permission of the two
Yes,
gentlemen, this is not the first time, this is the second time. The first one was authored by the dear lady senator celebrating her birthday today on the COCO levy fund, which was also certified. Yes, and she's also refining the measure, and this is the second time. But this is unprecedented, Mr. President.
Second time,
Yes, Mr. President.
with a certification.
Yes, Mr. President.
Without a certification, there were others.
Yes, we have
My colleague,
the number
here,
one,
Mr. President, is
the number
shouting
one,
many.
in terms of veto, Mr. President, the number one author is Senator Gordon. With
What
the
did-
three
why?
measures.
How many bills authored by Senator Gordon were vetoed, Mr. President?
Three, I believe, Mr. President.
How many? How many?
Three measures.
Louder.
Three measures.
Three measures authored by Senator Gordon
I
were
believe so.
vetoed.
And we have also for Senator Villar, we have two measures.
Two measures. And
Yes, Mr. President.
is that about it?
And then we have Senator Joel Vidal, who have one measure.
Okay. So
Mr.
one,
President.
And Senator Risa Contiveros also one.
one measure. So,
We are-
As a point of information, Mr. President,
One of the bills vetoed, with the permission of the gentleman and Senator Villanueva, you originally have the floor, you're sitting down. You're not-
I'm being courteous to the gentleman from Zambales, Mr. President.
All
He
right.
is the Manny Pacquiao of all vetoed bills, Mr. President.
All right, Senator Gordon is recognized.
I just wanted to clarify, Mr. President, because I found it really abhorrent that a certified bill would be vetoed. And at the same time, a bill or bills that have been approved by both houses of Congress after long deliberation, hard work, research, I don't think it's the fault of the President. I think it's the people around the President that keep trying to give him what I call the last touch treatment. Meaning to say, we invite all of these cabinet members here, and when they come, they should say, we don't want it, or at least have a LEDAC meeting, or at the very least, say, we want to make adjustments on this bill, instead of vetoing it, because it costs a lot of taxpayers' money, it costs a lot of hard work, our staff are overwrought, and all of a sudden, it will be vetoed. Especially, for example, Mr. President, the OSG bill. I did not file that bill. They lobbied. I got the bill, and because it went to the Department of Justice, out of courtesy to the branch of the President, we worked very hard. Senator Dillon and I worked very hard. We had extended debates here to make the bill better. But when it didn't come out the way they wanted it, apparently they decided to veto it. To me, that is really ridiculous because it's a bill that would have benefited many of the Solicitor Generals. And it really is a sad state of affairs because the Senate is a co-equal branch, along with Congress, of course. But it is important that we let the Office of the President know that they cannot treat us in this manner. Not that we are entitled to it, although God knows we are because we are a respected branch of the government, but really to save the government's time, save taxpayers' money, and make sure that we are able to succeed in crafting good legislation. Certainly, it really renders our enthusiasm, inutile practically because we want to make sure that kaya natin gawin lahat yung mga batas na ginagawa, pinaghahandaan. Ilan po, Mr. President? I will now return the floor to my colleague, the pastor from Bulacan.
The floor is now with Senator Dillon.
yes.
Because
Mr. President.
Senator Villanueva sat down.
Mr. President, yes, I agree with Senator Gordon that in fact a closer coordination would have prevented this situation from happening. As in measures that are not certified as urgent and administration measures, I think our system of check and balance would empower really the president to veto. There is nothing that we can say about that. He disagrees with the policy that the Congress proposes, and it is within the right of the president to veto. What we're just raising in issue is where the president has agreed on a certain policy as evidenced by the certification issued, and afterwards veto that policy which we thought at the start he agreed with. Now, there was even an instance here. Mention was made of the Coco Levy bill. Mr. President, I have been 21 years in the Congress, and that was the first time I witnessed an episode wherein after the Senate and the House ratified the bicameral conference committee report and sent the enrolled copy to Malacanang, Malacanang said, we are not in agreement with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And therefore returned to us the measure. Unprecedented, both chambers reconvened the bicameral conference committee.
Humbled themselves.
Abolished.
Humbled themselves.
Humbled itself. Abolished the, reconvened the bicameral conference committee, and set us, and once more sent the measure to the bicameral conference committee, and what we thought corrected the objectionable portion. And Senator Villar worked hard on this. She did, in her honest effort, tried to recast the bill in order to meet the objections, which we recognized. After the bill was passed for the second time and sent to Malacanang, nabito uli. This one really, beats every rule that we know. So here, I think, Mr. President, is a failure of coordination. We are not questioning the right of the president to veto. We are only raising an issue, vetoing a measure which was certified as urgent as an administration, and vetoing a bill after it was returned to us and we corrected it. This to me, I'm standing here expressing, I hope, the sentiments of the institution, not only of the opposition, that these things should not happen, which means maybe that we should have a better PLLO coordinator.
What's that? What's that? What's that, Your Honor? What's that? What's
Who?
What's PLL?
I do not know who is the PLLO coordinator, Mr. President. We do not know because we have very little interaction. But levity aside, we are guessing. We exercise our independent judgment. But the reality in this world and in the reality of our setup, the government, the president approves or vetoes a measure. That is our system of check and balance. But having said that, however, it does not remove the fact that we are so frustrated when after working on a measure, especially after the president has certified the same to be an administration measure, it gets vetoed. Yes, the majority leader who has told me to tirahin mo.
No, in this particular case, I'll do it myself, Your Honor. Because, to be very honest, I concur fully with the distinguished minority floor leader. We have no questions about the power of the president to veto a bill, Mr. President. That is his, ika nga, kapangyarihan po niya yan eh. He can do that. That's his, he's allowed by the Constitution to veto measures. what boggles the mind, and I mentioned it over the weekend out of sheer frustration in an interview, is that these are certified measures. And this particular one is signed by our dear President, Mr. President. And that is my point. My point is on the certification of these measures. If it is certified, we let it slide. Actually, I was very patient in the first certification, which was vetoed, which is the Coco Levy bill. Tahimik lang muna kami. But on this second particular measure, Mr. President, I think we should be clarified by Malacanang, or we should seek clarification from Malacanang, what is the purpose of this certification? Case in point, tomorrow we are supposed to meet with Secretary Dominguez. I think he's supposed to brief. Is that pushing through?
I think it was moved to August 5, Monday.
August 5. Therefore, when we meet with him on his priority measure, which is the Trabaho Bill, that Trabaho Bill, Mr. President, although it will bring down the corporate income tax to a lower amount, it will remove incentives of several industries affecting hundreds of thousands of Filipinos. What if it is now certified once again? We take several months passing it, knowing Senator Recto, our dear Minority Floor Leader, and the other members here who want to improve the measure. It will be bloody on the floor. And when we take that up, and then another lobby group will approach our dear President, another Chamber of Commerce, another group will approach the President to have it vetoed, and it is vetoed, well already certified. That is something I think that we should properly get coordination with Malacanang, and that this may not happen again in the future. In fairness to Senator Bongo, I spoke to him today. We had a nice discussion outside, and he pointed to me that on August 5, in the mini LEDAC, he will point this out to the members of the cabinet. If you ask my simple and humble opinion, simple understanding and humble opinion of the matter, I believe the Department of Labor was pushing this. As a matter of fact, we received calls from Secretary Bello and some members who are sympathetic to the cause. Some members of cabinet sympathetic to the cause of this. Even Secretary Sal Panelo, who is the presidential spokesman, had talked to me and asked me what the status of the measure is because of his updates with media. And I said, Secretary, within the next 2 days, approve ito. So they knew for a fact. They were asking and coordinating with us. As a matter of fact, I will not mention who the secretary is. There was a secretary being interviewed in TV, and he said, tapos na ang House, kami, pinacertify na namin, inuupuan ng Senado. It's there in the Senate being sat on. I take that as an offense because now we double time, we worked hard. I appeal to the Minority Floor Leader to assist us on this because this is what the President and Malacanang wanted to happen. So, Mr. President, yun lang. Ang punto ko lang dito bilang Majority Floor Leader, sana hindi po tayo mapapaya muli na isang certified measure ay mabivito lamang. Yun lang po. Regardless of what issue, what the topic may be. Because being certified, it is a policy. It's a policy statement of the palace telling us that we want this measure. As a matter of fact, let's just wait for them to write the new security of tenure measure, just to be sure. They used to do that in previous Congresses, wherein Malacanang-sponsored measures were actually given by them for us to further study, amend, and to file. Maybe that could be one suggestion we can put forward in our mini LEDAC or in the LEDAC itself. Because it is very tedious and tiring, Mr. President, and frustrating. As you were distraught, I was distraught too. We worked hard on this. Ito na po yung last 2 minutes natin. Nagpalakpakan po tayo lahat dito when we passed this. It was like a big thorn pulled out of our backs. 21 years we've been fighting for this measure. And Senator Joel is correct. I was in SM the other day. I was in our home ng SM. I was buying a chair for my kids. And the guy, one of the salesmen came up to me and says, paano yan, sir? Hindi na po matutuloy yung security of tenure. Sabi ko, wala na kami magagawa, na-veto na. That's the stark reality of it. These people are affected. So, I'm making an appeal, and I'm glad that he filed the measure, but I hope it doesn't go back again to being vetoed. Kasi kawawa naman yung mga kababayan natin. Yung mayayaman, mayaman na po yan eh. Sobrang yaman na talaga nila, Mr. President. So, you know, again, as your majority floor leader, a majority floor leader of the Senate and chairman of the House Committee on Rules, we just want to be clarified on the issue of certification. Because like I said, the trabaho bill, whether it be certified, mamaya ma-veto, huwag na natin pag-usapan. Kung ganun lamang. Maybe siguro we'll seek clarification straight from the President and see if he will approve it or not before we tackle the measure. Kasi sayang po yung hirap natin dito. Well-meaning, hardworking members of the legislature. It's quite disheartening. I just wanted to put my 2 cents worth, Mr. President.
Maybe, Mr. President, if I may suggest, we express our sentiment that presidential certifications should adhere strictly to the constitutional mandate, and that is to address emergency or public calamity. And unless these standards are present, to refrain from issuing a certification so that it will not be embarrassing if after we heed the certification and pass the measure, it will be vetoed. At least if it is not certified and the President vetoes the measure, it is simply in exercise of his power under the Constitution without entangling himself with an inconsistent position where after certifying a measure as an administration measure and therefore must be passed urgently, he vetoes the measure. That is our suggestion, to send a message to Malacanang. Exercise the right to certify strictly on the basis of the constitutional mandate. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And with that, we no longer have any question on the sponsor, on the gentleman from Bulacan.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleague from Iloilo. Let me close, Mr. President, by saying that
Yes,
I rise here today not only for myself or the Committee of Labor, but also for the institution, but more importantly for the more than 2 million workers na naaabuso po sa evils of contractualization. Let me again thank my distinguished colleagues who helped me out in the 17th Congress, and we hope and pray that the same support ang makukuha po natin this coming 18th Congress. Again, for the record, we did our part, Mr. President. We are more than willing to walk the extra mile to help our countrymen and people. And we are hoping and praying that this time around we'll be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel by passing this anti-endo bill. Maraming salamat po at pagpalain tayong lahat ng ating Panginoong Diyos.
Senator Gordon.
Mr. President, may I, if I may, advise my colleague here that it might be better now, for an example, so that the public will be more aware of the injustice of the situation, if he starts calling individual companies who are practicing endo and put it under the light of scrutiny. Because right now, public scrutiny, because right now, natatalo tayo ng hidden faces in the cabinet or everywhere else by citing the specter that it will drive away business. I am of the opinion that that may be so, Mr. President. That may be right, that there may be basis for that, that business will be afraid to go into business because it becomes less predicted, less capable of being predicted. But on the other hand, if the gentleman from Bulacan would focus on certain companies that are in fact doing this malpractice, I think it will go a long way in letting the public understand, because half the problem is letting the public understand how vituperative and how pervasive this practice is. That is all, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We'll definitely take note of that, Mr. President. We'll submit to the wisdom of the distinguished gentleman from Zambales. Thank you.
Okay. Senator, the Majority Leader.
Mr. President, we refer the privileged speech of the good gentleman to the Committee on Labor. Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved. Referred to the Committee on Labor.
Thank you. Just some housekeeping matters, Mr. President. The Senate Resolution number 6, with the permission of the body, this is a resolution to conduct inquiry in native legislation on national poverty situation, include comprehensive review and assessment on existing poverty data. Be transferred, or the referral be transferred from the Committee on Social Justice to the Committee on Economic Affairs. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, so moved.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have several committees, Mr. President, who would like to elect their members. If we may prioritize this because, so that they can conduct their hearings if it's all right with the permission of the body. For the Committee on Civil Service, Government Reorganization, and Professional Regulation, the chairperson of this committee, Senator Bong Revilla. I move to elect Senators Joel Villanueva, Senator Bongo, Senator Bato de la Rosa, Senator Francis Tolentino, Senator Pia Cayetano for the majority, and for the minority, Senator Risa Ontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, enumerated names are elected.
Mr. President, for the Committee on Constitutional Amendments and Revision of Codes, this is chaired by Senator Kiko Pangilinan. For the part of the majority, Vice Chairperson Lacson, Senator Sangara, Senators Grace Poe, Senator Manny Pacquiao, Senator Richard Gordon, Senator Francis Tolentino, Senator Christopher Bongo, Senator Cynthia Villar, and Senator Nancy Binay. And on the part of the minority, Senator Ontiveros. I so move.
Any objection? Hearing none, so elected.
On the Committee on Cooperatives, Mr. President, where I'm the chairperson, I move to elect Senators Risa Ontiveros, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Senator Cynthia Villar, Senator Christopher Bongo, Senator Francis Tolentino, Senator Lito Lapid, Senator Richard Gordon, and for the part of the minority, Senator Kiko Pangilinan. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, so elected.
For the part of the on the Committee on Economic Affairs, I move that we elect, this is the chairperson here, Mr. President, is Senator Amy Marcos. On the part of the majority, we move to elect Senator Sonny Angara, Senator Pia Cayetano, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Senator Lito Lapid, Senator Bong Revilla Jr., and Senator Francis Tolentino, and for the on the part of the minority, Senator Kiko Pangilinan and Senator Risa Ontiveros. I so move.
Any objection? Hearing none, so elected.
Mr. President, this is for the Committee on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation, the chairperson, Senator Amy Marcos. I move to elect Senator Ping Lacson as vice chair, and members Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy Binay, Senator Ronald De La Rosa, Senator Christopher Bongo, Senator Aquilino Pimentel III, Senator Ramon Bong Revilla, Senator Francis Tolentino, Senator Cynthia Villar, and on the part of the minority, Senator Kiko Pangilinan and Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Any objection? Hearing none, so elected.
Mr. President, on the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources, this is chaired by no other than Senator Cynthia Villar, Senators Francis Tolentino and Senator Pia Cayetano as vice chairs, and Senators Lourdes Nancy Binay, Senator Bato de la Rosa, Senator Amy Marcos, Senator Manny Pacquiao, Senator Joel Villanueva, Senator Lito Lapid, Senator Richard Gordon, Senator Bongo, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, and for the minority, Senator Kiko Pangilinan, Senator Risa Ontiveros, and Senator Laila De Lima as members. I so move.
Any objection? Hearing none, so elected.
The Committee on Finance will just take up tomorrow. I believe we're going to sponsor the amendments to our rules, so we'll take this up tomorrow, Mr. President, with the permission of the chairperson of the Committee on Finance. On the Committee on Games and Amusements, this is chaired by Senator Lito Lapid. We have Senator Ping Lacson, Senator Christopher Bongo, Senator Manuel Pacquiao, Senator Bong Revilla Jr., Senator Francis Tolentino, and Senator Amy Marcos. For the minority, Senator Laila De Lima and Senator Kiko Pangilinan. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, so elected.
Mr. President, on the Committee on Health and Demography, for the majority, the chairs, it's being chaired, Mr. President, by the distinguished senator from Davao, Senator Bongo. Vice Chairpersons, Senator Pia Cayetano, Senator Lourdes Nancy Binay, and for the majority, Senators Ronald De La Rosa, Senator Francis Tolentino, Senator Amy Marcos, Senator Richard Gordon, Senator Panfilo Lacson, Senator Aquilino Pimentel, and for the minority, Senator Risa Ontiveros, and Senator Kiko Pangilinan. So moved.
Any objection? Hearing none, so elected.
Mr. President, on the Committee on Labor, Employment, and Human Resource Development, this is chaired by Senator Joel Villanueva. We move to elect the chairperson, the members, as vice chairperson, Senator Nancy Binay, Senator Bongo, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Senator Sonny Angara, Senator Bong Revilla Jr., Senator Francis Tolentino, Senator Manny Pacquiao, Senator Ronald De La Rosa, Senator Panfilo Lacson, and Senator Coco Pimentel, and for the minority, Senator Hontiveros and Senator Pangilinan. I so move.
Any objection? Hearing none, so elected.
For the Committee on Public Works, where the chairperson is Senator Manny Pacquiao, I move to elect for Vice Chairperson, Senator Bong Revilla Jr., Senator Sonny Angara, and members Senator Lacson, Senator Lito Lapid, Senator Vetoed de la Rosa, Senator Francis Tolentino, Senator Joel Villanueva, Senator Grace Poe, Senator Christopher Bongo, Senator Richard Gordon, and for the minority, Senator Laila de Lima, and Senator Francis Pangilinan.
Hearing no objection, so elected.
Mr. President, this is for the Committee on Social Justice, Welfare, and Rural Development. The chair is Senator Laila de Lima. For the majority, Vice Chairpersons, Senator Nancy Binay and Senator Amy Marcos, and members Senator Joel Villanueva, Senator Pia Cayetano, Senator Bato de la Rosa, and Senator Ramon Bong Revilla. I so move.
Any objection? Hearing none, so elected.
Mr. President, this is the Committee on Sports. For the majority, the chair is Senator, we already elected Senator Christopher Bongo on this committee, and we move to elect the Vice Chairperson, Senator Manny Pacquiao, and members Senator Pia Cayetano, Senator Ronald De La Rosa, Senator Francis Tolentino, Senator Joel Villanueva, Senator Ramon Bong Revilla Jr., for the minority, Senator Laila de Lima, and Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Hearing no objection, so elected.
On the Committee on Youth, the chairperson is Senator Sonny Angara. I move to elect the rest of the committee members as vice chair, Senator Amy Marcos, members Senator Nancy Binay, Senator Laila de Lima, Senator Christopher Bongo, Senator Manny Pacquiao, and Senator Joel Villanueva. I so move.
Hearing no objection, so elected.
Trade and Commerce, tapos na? Wala. Tapos na? Ah, hindi pa? Okay. Trade and Commerce, we have not read yet, Mr. President, right? So I move, Mr. President, to elect the members of the Committee on Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship. This is headed by Senator Coco Pimentel, the Vice Chairperson, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, and Senator Grace Poe, together with Senator Gordon, Senator Villar, Senator Sonny Angara, Senator Nancy Binay, and for the minority, Senator Kiko Pangilinan, and Senator Laila de Lima. I so move.
Hearing no objection, so elected.
And the Committee on Foreign Relations, who will be tackling the first privilege speech of this 18th Congress. The chair is Senator Coco Pimentel, and Vice Chairperson Senator Richard Gordon, Senator Francis Tolentino, Senator Bato de la Rosa, and Senator Manny Pacquiao, and members Senator Christopher Bongo, Senator Ping Lacson, Senator Lito Lapid, Senator Joel Villanueva, Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy Binay, Senator Bong Revilla Jr., Senator Grace Poe, and for the minority, Senator Risa Ontiveros, Senator Kiko Pangilinan, and Senator Laila de Lima. I so move.
Hearing no objection, so elected.
Okay lang, resolution lang sa iglesia. Resolution ng iglesia. Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I move that we consider proposed Senate Resolution number, PS Resolution number 37. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration is in order.
May we request the Secretary to read the title of the measure?
Secretary will read the title of the measure. Without prejudice to inserting into the records text of the said resolution.
Resolution commemorating the 105th founding anniversary of the Iglesia ni Cristo INC, commending the leadership of Ca Eduardo V. Manalo and recognizing its contribution to the Filipino and the world.
Mr. President, the status of the measures were in a period of sponsorship. May I be recognized to sponsor the measure?
Senators, the majority leader is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, let me take this moment to recognize an outstanding milestone for the Iglesia ni Cristo. as they celebrate their 105th anniversary. For 105 years now, and with around 3 million members here and abroad, the Iglesia ni Cristo has been a stalwart religious umbrella that has been influential in shaping the country's moral fiber and spiritual integrity. Aside from sharing the teachings of Christ, the INC has spearheaded large-scale social work by extending assistance to those in need through missions such as Lingap sa Mamamayan or Aid for Humanity program, an integrated social civic service that offers medical and dental service as well as blood donation drives and provides reinforcement in times of calamity and disaster. With their spiritual, material, and cultural contributions, the Iglesia ni Cristo's nation-building influence really cannot be denied. We would be a different nation if it not had been for the enduring presence of the INC for the past 105 years. So, Mr. President, let me congratulate the INC and wish them more success and several programs and projects for the good of our country and their institution. With that, Mr. President, I ask the Senate to approve this measure. Mr. President?
Mr. President,
Yes.
if I may, with the indulgence of the Majority Floor Leader, may I be, with the permission of the Majority Floor Leader, that I be included as one of the co-authors, Mr. President?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. That comes from an equally large and distinguished group, leader of a distinguished group, such as the Jesus is Lord Church of God. Mr. President, may I move that we make all members of the 18th Congress as co-authors with the permission of the body, Mr. President.
All right, so recorded.
No other member wishes to interpolate and propose amendments. I move to adopt Senate Resolution number 37, subject to stand.
Any objection? Hearing none, PS Resolution 37 is hereby adopted, subject to stand.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we have a request by the Honorable Senator Cynthia Villar to elect the members of the minority in her Committee on Agrarian Reform. Hindi pa ba sila na-elect? The two members in the minority. I move to elect on the part of the minority Senators Pangilinan and Senator Hontiveros Risa. I so move.
Hearing no objection, so elected.
And the chairperson of the Committee on Energy, Senator Win Gatchalian, would like to nominate Senator Francis Tolentino as member in lieu of Senator Joel Villanueva, who was previously nominated as member of. We have to ask permission. Did you agree to this? No? Unfortunately, Senator Joel Villanueva is also disheartened by leaving the committee on Senator Gatchalian. So it's a double whammy for Senator Joel. No, but he's in agreement with the proposal of Senator Gatchalian to exchange his seat for Senator Francis Tolentino. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion approved.
We have a very, may I ask for 1 minute suspension?
No, the Senate suspended for 1 Senate minute. Session resumed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I have good news for our colleagues. We'll just tackle the reference of business tomorrow. It's a very lengthy number of measures. It will take, I'm sure, over 45 minutes to finish, so we'll take it up first thing in the morning, in the afternoon. But, Mr. President, may I just appeal to the colleagues that are still here after we adjourn to just step into the lounge for a few minutes to discuss our calendar. We were given the calendar already by the House of Representatives, their requested calendar, so that we can fine-tune our 2 calendars, Mr. President.
You should bring your hatchet man there in the Senator's lounge.
Yes, he's so requested to attend, Mr. President. Mr. President, with that, I move to adjourn session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Tuesday, July 30, 2019.
All right, any objection? There being none, the session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Tuesday, July 30, 2019.